Hello again, and welcome to episode 7 of War Stories, behind-the-scenes tales from the front lines of the media. I am your host, Tom Curley, co-host of the fabulously funny co-host podcast, if that is such a thing, Get Off My Lawn. And we would like to welcome today, of course, my partner in crime, the person that we could not do this show without, the inimitable Gary Armstrong. Gary, how you doing today?
Oh, I am doing phenomenally.
Phenomenally.
It's so great to be here in the bowels of your
Yes.
studio. I
Yes.
can't.
No-
It's amazing what you've done.
No
with
double
this.
boxes needed this episode because we're both in the same room.
But what if they ordered double boxes?
That's, well, yeah, maybe people like double boxes or triple boxes. I can make as many as possible, but
We could be like those stations who say we have more boxes than any other station.
Oh, that's a thing. That's a thing.
I know.
MSNBC and CNN. I don't know how much Fox does it, but CNN, they're the worst. They had a Decabox once.
It's almost
10
like
boxes.
it's almost like the Hollywood squares of cable news.
Yes, exactly. Except they don't have Charlie Weaver or oh God, who was it? Not Alan Seuss. Oh, the famous. He was in Bye Bye Birdie.
Van Dyke?
No. The oh.
We'll remember.
Blanking on his
Halfway
name,
through
we'll
the show,
remember.
we'll remember.
It was the gay guy who was hysterically.
Paul
funny.
Lynde.
Paul Lynde. There you go. So anyway, one of the cool things, and maybe sad things, it depends upon how you look at it, of being here is that Gary forgot to bring his microphone, or as it's become known, the large black penis, and he's been confined to wearing a little lavalier mic. I mean, oh my God.
When I looked at it, that's just, maybe it says something about me and where my mind operates from, but it looked like a giant black penis, which reminded me of one of my stories. This happened to every reporter at some point in his or her career has to do a zoo story. Like every reporter has to cover a parade. It's just the way it is, trust me. This was a zoo that was in the suburbs of Boston. Won't mention the name. We had done most of the animals, and you've seen these stories before where the reporter, in a cutesy way, and it really makes me want to puke, really. They hold the mic up and they talk to the animals. Well, we'd done all of that, and they said, Gary, before you leave, we've got a really big one for you. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And they said, meet Colossus the gorilla. He could have been a cousin of King Kong. I walked up to the gorilla and somebody says, you and Colossus, you guys are going to bond. And I said, what do you mean by that? Well, skin tones, I mean. I said, that sounds blatantly racist. Oh, Gary was just kidding. I said, I'm lighter than this guy. And the gorilla was now looking at me. And I'm focused on how do I get this thing to work? So I just started jabbering at the gorilla, who was making kind of weird looks at me and all that sort of thing. Now, I've wrapped up the stupid interview, and I'm doing what we call a stand-up, the thing you see at the end of the report where the reporter babbles into the camera. And I'm memorizing it. And one of the things you have to do as a street reporter is instant memory. You get it memorized in 30 seconds, you turn around and you spit it back at the camera. Well, I'm memorizing this thing, and I hear the gorilla is grunting and grunting and grunting, and the guy just starting to laugh. And I turned around just before we started to record the stand-up, and the gorilla's got this glassy look in his eyes, and he's just staring at me, and foam is coming out of his mouth. And I turned around and I started doing the stand-up, and the laughter was getting louder and louder. Well, as a reporter, you ignore that sort of stuff. I turned around after I had finished it, and the gorilla had indeed bonded with me. He really liked me. How much did he like me? He was groping his testicles. Yes, the gorilla was masturbating. He was jacking off right there on tape, folks. It may be the highlight of my career. I'm not quite sure at this point. But there was this massive gorilla jacking off in back of Gary Armstrong. They don't train you for this.
How many? Come on, go on YouTube. How many videos?
Oh, I had a good suit on, by the way. I had a really good suit on.
Hey, at least he didn't. At least he didn't throw shit at you.
But I got to tell you, that's how weird it is. The fact that I had a gorilla who was jacking off didn't dawn on me as much as the fact that the stuff was landing on my good suit.
Well, come on YouTube you can find tons of things of videos of reporters doing a stand-up, usually at a zoo or some kind of an and as the camera pans, there'll be two rhinoceroses
going at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Or a hippopotamus or an elephant.
The first circus story I did, and I was, the circuses were really a big deal back then. I said, I want to do this story, and they said, well, the circus is really not only a feature story today, but they said it was going to be a lead story because there had been some problems with, I don't know whether it was Bonham and Bailey back then, but long story short, it was part of the hard news angle. So they said, you're going to be doing a feature and you're going to be doing it as a hard news story. And I said, great. So we get to the circus, and I said, I'm here, I'm ready to do it. And they said, we're all set for you. And I said, can I go up, can I be like Burt Lancaster and go up on the trapeze? No, no, no. Oh, can I be a lion tamer? And they said, no, 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 we have it set for you. And they said, put these boots on and put this big jacket on. Well, what are you going to have me do? You see the elephant thing there? I said, yeah. You see where the elephants did all of their do there? Yeah. Here's a bucket, here's a shovel, go clean up the elephant shit. And I said, that's what you want me to do? And they said, yeah, you're here to clean up the elephant shit. And I said, well, I guess I'm really in show business.
Like I was just going to say, why don't you leave the circus? What, and give up showbiz? That's the oldest, oh my God, that's the oldest joke on the planet.
They did a freeze frame, leading that night, leading into my report. The freeze frame was me. I had a helmet on, and I had the shovel, and the shovel had come up, and the freeze frame was Gary Armstrong at the circus, and I had this shovel of shit in my hand. God love the business.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of which, I used to do a comedy routine years ago, and the sad part is it's as relevant today as it was then. And it was that I worked in the news. I was a director, for CBS, and when people would find that out, they would find out. They would say, oh my God, it must be so interesting working in the news because every day is different. And I go, no,
it's the same
not
thing.
Really. Because think about it. Every day in the world, every week, maybe not every week, but every 2 weeks, somewhere in the world, there's an earthquake, a hurricane, a tornado, or a flood, right? Nowadays with climate change, it's a super tornado, hurricane, flood. And no matter who covers it, whether it's you in Boston or New York or Network, we do the same thing. We send a reporter out. We send out Gary Armstrong and a camera crew. We put a family of 4 in front of the rubble of what was once a perfectly fine mobile home and ask what I call the 3 stupid questions. And stupid question number 1 is,
how do you feel? And remember, when you ask that question, bite your lip.
Bite your lip.
Shake your head.
Shake your head.
How do you feel?
Now, and of course, you never get the answer that you would expect.
How do you feel?
How do you feel? Yeah, you never get the answer that you expect, which would be basically, how do I feel? How the fuck do you think I feel? I just lost all my goddamn worldly belongings. How do I feel? I feel great. I haven't felt this great since my friggin' hemorrhoid operation. No, that's not the answer that you get. The answer you get is, I don't feel so good. Just lost all our worldly belongings. And at this point, it's somebody, and it's usually the wife, who gives what I call the platitude. And that is, it doesn't matter that we lost all our worldly belongings. All that matters is no one got hurt. And everybody nods, okay? Now, I used to sit in the control room with my partners, and we would laugh, and I would say, now I'm going to hell for this. I know that I am, but I wish just once someone would look right in the camera and say, Usually the man, why couldn't the tornado have taken my wife and left the big screen TV? No, you never hear that. No, no. You never hear my mother-in-law doesn't have a scratch on her. My pickup truck's in a effing tree. Never hear that.
Well, now that we know how you feel, what was it like?
What was it like, right?
What
was it like? And of course, you know, with a mobile home, it's always a tornado. Because, you know, tornadoes hate mobile homes.
They do.
The mobile home is the natural enemy of the tornado. A tornado will go around an entire trailer park just to get at one mobile park. It's
Absolutely.
just a rule. So the question number 2, and I'm sure you've asked it, are you going to rebuild? And again, you get the same answer. Same answer.
Yes, we're going to rebuild.
Yeah,
Well, we've lived here. Our parents lived here. Our grandparents lived here. Nobody is going to drive us off this land.
But the answer I liked was, oh yes, this is the 3rd time in 5 years we have been flooded out, but we're going to rebuild because this is God's country.
Yes.
This is paradise. To which I would yell at the screen, maybe God is sending you a message. Get the hell off my property. Can't you take a hint? I flooded you out 5 times in the last 3 years. But no, they don't do that.
It really prompts the question that never really gets asked. And did God talk to you?
Did God
tell you?
Right, exactly.
Did God
You've done
do
that.
your insurance?
Your insurance. And of course, now, stupid question number 3, and this is my favorite. What did the tornado sound like?
Yes.
And you all at home know the answer. You've heard it 100 times. It sounded just like a freight train going right through the living room. Okay? Now, let's stop and think about this for a second. Okay? In order to say it sounded just like a freight train going through my living room implies that you have, in fact, had the experience of a freight train going through your living room. Hands? Anybody here? Do you know of anybody?
I don't know of anyone.
I don't know. Do you know of anybody who knows of anybody?
I
No,
don't.
no. Anybody who knows of anybody who knows of anybody? No.
That would really be bending the truth.
Yes. But I can tell you for a fact, maybe not now, but during those years, I know 2 people who would know if a freight train went through somebody's living room. You and me, because it would have been in the news.
Of course.
You know, we're here today with the Johnson family, where a freight train ran through their house last night. Tell me, Mr. Johnson, how do you feel? Well, not too good.
You know, that's like we have the cars that crash into homes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're flipping from the tornado to the car driving into someone's house, and the question is asked, what did it sound like? It sounds like a tornado.
Yeah, sounds like a tornado. Exactly. You know, are you going to rebuild? Oh yes, this is the 3rd time in 5 years a freight train has gone through our living room. Yeah. Have you considered not building on those railroad tracks right there? I never thought of that. You know. So anyway, so you got a good story of being beat up on, metaphorically, by Billy Crystal and Robin Williams.
This one goes back to the year 1988. Michael Dukakis was the governor. He was also the Democratic candidate for president, and he was doing fairly well until he made a couple of mistakes. But on this Saturday in 1988, and I remember it was a Saturday because I was the only reporter working that day for my TV station, they were holding a news conference, and then they were into the question and answer session. And I've always had this wacko part of my brain that says, ask him, do something stupid. It'll work out. So I raised my hand and they said, oh, the brother back there. And I said, why is it that Governor Dukakis, he doesn't seem to have any verb, he doesn't have any chutzpah? And they both looked at each other and I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And one said to the other, the bro back there says the governor doesn't have any chutzpah. And it didn't really dawn on me what was happening, but it sounded well, and I could see some spit coming out. What I didn't know was, and it happened in a split second, Billy Crystal and Robin Williams just kept walking back through the room towards me. They were ignoring everyone else. All the other reporters were looking at me. The cameras that were up front turned and focused on me. And I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen to me now? They both came up on either side of me and they said, bro, say chutzpah. And I said, I said it. No, you didn't. Try again, bro. So I said, chutzpah. They said, no, bro, you got to say it this way. Chutzpah. And I said, I did it. Do it again, bro. Chutzpah. No, bro, you got to say it with spit. Chutzpah. And they both spat on me, and I just sat there and I said, okay, I think I got it now. Good, bro, go. Remember whenever you say it, and we heard your wife was Jewish. And I said, yeah. Well, say it, bro. Chutzpah. No, bro, chutzpah. And that was it. That was it. That was the rest of the news conference and all of the Q&A fell by the wayside. And there's a lot of chutzpah being spat.
Spat, yes, yes. Well, you were a good straight man.
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Sure that,
and so I don't leave it as if they mistreated me after it was all over. They both came over and said, "You're a good sport, but remember, say it with a spit." And I said, "Okay, fine."
Yeah, a lot of Hebrew words, and I think some French words too. You gotta. It's like you're clearing your throat.
I have to this day. I can't.
I
mean, I've told that story many times, and I still can't say the. But what I loved was how kind they were, how down to earth they were, and they made it a point to let me know that they were just picky on me, and it took me a while to appreciate having been singled out by those two guys.
Being goofed on, it's hard. I take a joke very well.
Yeah.
And so people dump on me all the time because I know a lot of people who can dish it out, but they can't take it.
Oh.
So I don't reciprocate because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But at work, oh my God, for some reason over the years, there has been a propensity. More than once, I have been basically gaffer taped to a chair. Usually when I'm on the air. The first time that happened was at WBHC. It was my very first broadcast.
Our old college radio station.
Our old college radio station. It was my very first broadcast as a freshman. I was on my own. I was doing a classical music show, and I was like, wow, I'm a DJ, right? So I'm sitting there doing the thing, and down come three people, a guy named Mark Wiener, a guy named George Berger, and a guy named Frank Dunn. Old friends. Yes. And I didn't know them. They were alumni. They had graduated years before, but they come, down to the station a lot. So they came down and they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Tom Curley. I'm the new disc jockey." And George said, "Really?" And he proceeded to gaffer tape me to the chair. and then they left. So there I am on the air, and I got a 20-minute classical record going on, and I'm wondering, how am I going to get the next record on the air? Which was all I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking three strange guys just came down and basically tied me up. So I tried to cue up the next record with my teeth. and I almost got it. Well, what I didn't know is, of course, the three of them were just out of my sight laughing. And just before the record ended, George came in, segued the next record, untied me. We finished the show. I got replaced. He took me to Bill's Meadowbrook across the street, got me ridiculously drunk, and we were best friends, basically, for the rest of our lives. But an even better version of it was doing the morning news. And we finish. And after the morning news is over, we do promos, okay? So we would record a promo. So I'm there recording the promo. I'm on the board, and my other audio guys proceed to gaffer tape me to the chair. Okay? So I'm sitting there, and I'm tied up like this, and the AD is going, "Open the mic, open the mic. Tom, open the mic." And she looks over, and she sees me, right? And I hit the intercom button with my nose. I go, "I'm a little tied up right now." And at that moment, I swear I am not making this up, a tour group of Japanese people come into the control room. Like 10 people come into the control room, and I turn around, and I'm gaffer taped to the chair, and I look at them. They look at me. They all take out their cameras. They take a photo and they move on. You cannot
make that up.
this stuff up.
Now, that was radio, college radio, local television, live local television. The kid is doing a report. They had the stations had this format where they would sometimes have the reporter in the newsroom sitting at his or her desk doing their story. That's what I was doing. I introed my story. The tape is playing. We came out of the tape, and just as we came out of the tape, and maybe some of your friends from the hospital radio station, just as the tape ended, and it came back to me, and I started to say, and he also said, and as I said, he also said, the chair went from under me. They pulled the chair, and I went, boom, just out of sight, but I kept talking. I kept, and he also said, blah, 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 blah. And I got up, and as I got up, Gary Armstrong live in the newsroom.
We used to play so many practical jokes. I mean, not so much, the network, but in radio. God, who was the guy? Ron Bush? Bush. Last name was Bush.
Yeah, I remember Ron Bush.
Yes. It was the name Ron.
Yeah,
He did a
he
jazz
was the bro.
show.
Yeah.
He was the coolest. You could not. He was unflappable. You could not get him to laugh. We did stuff like when he was reading the news, we would set his copy on fire. Okay, and he'd have a piece of paper and he would just keep reading it until it got to the bottom, and he stamped it out. Never cracked a smile. That's when we learned you had to light it from the bottom.
We did a variation on that. They were doing the midday news, and he was a really, really nice fellow. His name was Ken Wayne. This had been done before, but it hadn't been done for a while, and I had been told about it because they clearly wanted to see if I had the cojones to do it. So Ken was reading his copy, and I got the matches, and I crept onto the set behind the cameras, and I gave him a hot foot. And he just kept reading and reading, and you could see the smoke billowing, and you could see the little flames around Ken's shoes. And he got to the end of the story, and he just said, "Brr," and we'll be back right after this. And he got up slowly. The camera was still live. He knew that. And he looked around, and someone said, "Cut." And he looked around, and then he said, "God damn it, who did that? Armstrong." And I just disappeared.
Just disappeared, yeah. Oh, I remember once somebody at CBS FM, while one of the disc jockeys was on the air, they just opened the door and they emptied a CO2 fire extinguisher. And then here's the thing, like, this is audio, all right, So, I mean, I think it was more of a visual joke, but nonetheless, you're on the air and all of a sudden you hear whoosh. And then the funny visual is that all of a sudden the disc jockey just disappeared in a cloud of carbon dioxide foam.
Assignment editors can be really difficult. We had been sent out to do a story on George's Bank. This is when they were starting to cut back on the amount of fishing you could do. So we did the story and came back, and the assignment editor said, "Well, did you get everything I asked you for?" And I said, "Yes, we did." "Did you get everything I asked you for?" And I said, "Yes, and more." And I turned around and I just dumped a 15-pound flounder on his desk. And I just walked away, and I could hear my name being used in, and the newsroom just exploded. And the news director walked out and said, "What's all the laughter about?" And someone just whispered in his ear, and he said, "Get me Armstrong right now." I was out of the building.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I wasn't there for it, but I was told when we were at CBS FM, CBS FM at that time was in Black Rock. And right across the street, the building across the street housed ABC, which was WABC and WPLJ. And my friend George worked for WABC. And so we used to go over and visit all the time. We'd hang out with Cousin Brucey and Dan Ingram and, all the gang. And Dan Ingram loved to play practical jokes. And apparently they had a feature that they all had to do called News and Brief. News and Briefs, or News and Brief. So one day with Cousin Brucey, he starts to do the news. Coming up, News and Brief. And Dan Ingram dumps an entire box of underwear on him. And now nobody at home knows this, right? And,
the beauty of radio.
It's because it's radio, and also, you don't crack up. You just keep on going. But I remember I got Ron Bush going back to VHC. I wish I could remember what it was I said. He was doing some story, and I just hit in his ear, and it was something about auto theft or something, and I just cracked a joke, and it just hit him, and he busted out laughing.
And when she starts laughing,
I said, "Oh my God, I did it! I got Ron Bush to laugh." I mean, that's when I have made it. It is.
Do you remember the forms that ABC and probably the other networks had in the booth where the commentators sat, the reporters sat? It was a form. I don't know why. It said your name, the format of the show, whatever, just to remind them. So we knew a certain guy was going to be doing the information network news at Straight Up at the Hour. So we wrote down Edward R. Murrow, NBC News, Washington. And the guy comes in, a veteran, a complete veteran. He sat down, puts a cigarette down. He gets the cue from the director, and his name was Bob. That's all I'll tell you. And Bob just looks down at the sheet and says, "Good evening. It's 10 o'clock here in New York. It's time for the Information News Network. My name is Edward R." No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
We had a guy.
This is network radio.
Oh, network radio.
Network radio.
We had a guy. I can't remember his name, and I'm sorry. I'm old and senile. But he was an announcer. He was a really nice guy. And he had gotten hired by NBC, so he was leaving. So on his last broadcast, I don't know if you remember, but the tagline for each of the four networks was, and this is the ABC Information Network, a service of ABC News. The tagline was a service of ABC News, okay? Yeah. No big thing. Well, and he said that probably 1,000 times in his career. So, but this, in his last broadcast, he signed off with this is Entertainment News, a service of ABC News. And I thought it was hysterical, right? And he smiled and he laughed. Wow. The suits at ABC, they called NBC and they wanted to, you got to fire him. You got to fire him. And they went, why? And they told him. And the people at NBC went, that's hilarious. He's our guy. Here's a good one. I don't know who did it. This is back in the 70s when telephone companies were just Ma Bell. And some guy, I don't know if he worked for the phone company, but he jiggered our phone system. We would have a phone with multiple lines, and somehow he jiggered it where you could make 2 phone calls simultaneously and connect them. Okay, so what would happen is that, so what we would do is we would call 2 cab companies, and the phone would ring to this cab company and this cab company at the same time, and they'd both pick up.
Right.
And we could listen to it. You know, hello. Yeah, do you want a cab? What the hell do I want a cab for? Do you want a cab? I don't want a cab. Why the hell are you calling me? And they'd get into, we would call pizza parlors. Do you want a pizza? No, I don't want a pizza. What do you want? No, I don't. Why are you talking about? The best one we did is we called the security desk at the in front of BlackRock. We called the CBS security desk and the ABC security desk. And they started arguing with each other about the fact that they didn't answer the phone correctly or something. But yeah, we had endless fun. We had a lot of free time, and we were extremely juvenile. But then again, I didn't do it. So
of course not.
Yeah. Oh, the other cool thing we did at ABC Radio Net, we used to have these things called Watts lines.
I remember them.
Right.
Yeah.
They were like cross-country lines. And apparently they were cheaper than a regular phone. So we had a whole bunch of them. And what we learned we could do is, like, if you wanted to make a local call in L.A., you didn't call L.A., you connected the Watts line, then you connected the Watts line to a local number in L.A., and that way you didn't pay long-distance charges. So what I would do is I would sit in one control room, and I would call somebody in the other control room that we could see through the glass. And what I would do is I would route it to L.A., and then route it through another Watts line back to New York, and then route it to L.A., and then route it to New York, and then route it to L.A., and route it back to New York. So now, basically, this is a phone call that's gone 6,000 miles 4 or 5 times. It's gone about 20, 30. So there was a delay. So when you'd pick up the phone, I'd say, "Hey, Gary, how you doing?" And what the person would see, I would look like my lips were out of sync. It looked like like a Chinese movie, like a kung fu movie. "How are you, Gary?" And they go, "Tom, is there something wrong?" "No. What do you think is wrong?" "Well, your lips are out of sync." "How is that possible?" Again, yes, if you can't utilize state-of-the-art technology to do silly shit like that, I mean, what is the point?
Absolutely.
What is the point? Well, we did it again. We have wasted another half hour. An hour that we will never get back. And we got to some things we didn't think we were going to get to, and we also didn't get to things that we wanted to get to.
Next time.
We'll get it the next time. So now it's, of course, time for the inevitable plugs. Be sure to, of course, listen to our sister podcast, Get Off My Lawn with Tom Curley, where we talk about life, the universe, whatever the hell I want to talk about. It's my damn show. And, of course, we've got that. And more importantly, also have Voicescapes Audio Theater for the best in audio theater, comedy, and drama. I Should Know I Am in It. And, of course, the last thing, our blog, Marilyn's blog, the blog you contribute to, I contribute to, Serendipity Seeking Intelligent Life on Earth, A Fool's Errand if there ever was one. And, matter of fact...
and you still have something new coming up.
We have still... Oh, something else coming up. That is true. Every show needs a pundit, apparently. We don't have one. I don't think we really qualify as pundits. So we have our own political pundit who will make her debut next week on Ask Lexi. And the first show will be talking about something very, very, very serious, which is, of course, political polls. So... yes, it's very, very insightful. So anyway, that's it for this episode. See ya next time.